So please welcome Lawrie McKinna.
Thanks for inviting me today. And on Steve's talk, I wasn't going to mention something like this after Haig's talk as well. When obviously the Jets, there's been a bit of turmoil going on about new owners and the old owner not putting in money. Being an ex-player and you think you're indestructible, that's what you're talking about, the men, we're indestructible, we can do what we want. You know, I'm 59 now, I think I'm still 20 odd, and I can do what I did in those days, and I don't drink, so I'm fortunate enough that way. I don't have a hangover, or I don't drink a six-pack. But I was indestructible. You still feel as though you are until you actually try to do something physical and exert yourself. But over the last probably year and a half, been trying to sell the club, I've stopped sleeping at night. Like, my sleeping pattern's absolute shit. And I got sleeping tablets for it because my head's ticking over all the time. Are we going to get a buyer? Are we going to be able to pay the bills this week? Are we going to be able to do this, going to that? And it started affecting me, but I was going about going, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm all right. Got sleeping tablets. That started helping a wee bit. I got in the routine, I was exercising, doing all that stuff. I started swimming in the morning to just clear my head, to do something every morning because I couldn't walk because my knees were done. Started to feel better. But just a funny story, on the sleeping tablets, still on them, so I go to bed at night. I sometimes talk to my wife because it just knocks me out, I can't remember, but a few weeks ago she texted me in the morning at 7 o'clock and said, guess what you've done? Or she phoned, I said, what's wrong? 7 o'clock in the morning, what have I done? She says, can you not remember? I went, I've not remembered. No, I don't. She said, you've pissed all over the dining room table. So the sleeping tablets, I couldn't remember. I've got up. It was a brand new table out of Nick Scally's. I've peed all over my books and I missed my computer, which is lucky because the Jets don't have money to buy a new one. And I says, you're taking the piss, excuse the pun. And she says, you did. I said, but I got up this morning, had my breakfast before I left. I never noticed, but I did. A few weeks later, she got up and I was in the bath, standing in the bath in the ensuite, and I've no idea. And she's went, what are you doing? I said, I'm standing in the bath. I can't even remember that. And then last week I peed in the ensuite floor. So what I'm trying to tell you, don't invite me over to stay. And this morning she says, I was in the cupboards last night, so I'm not sure what I've done, but she got me, so what we do now, we lock the bedroom door at night. So we lock it so it makes a noise when I go out, so just in case it's knocking me out. But on what you were saying, Steve, it's obviously affecting me, although I'm not going to talk to anybody about it, because I'm a man. And I want to hold it in, but I can't sleep, and it's because my head's not shutting off, it's racing, and that's how I'm getting through it just now. So when you said that, I just thought and I've been to the toilet already and I never peed on the floor, so it was good. Now, I was going to talk about, because the professional game of soccer, we've been full-time for about the last 15 years. So when I played, same as when you played, you got a slap, get on with it. Coaches never really cared. Everybody got treated the same. I've been chucked about dressing rooms, told I was the most useless player ever, couldn't control a bag of cement, and then I was called Blue Circle after that, the cement brand in the UK. That was my new name because my touch was shit. But you get chucked about and you just got on with it. Nowadays, you can't. You've got the players' union, but you can't. That old bullying stuff and getting on with boys, you can't do it anymore. 15 years ago when the game went full-time, that's when you boys becoming full-time football players, having a bit of a career with it, can earn okay money, not huge money, but not many players who will live in Australia and play in Australia will retire when they finish. They have to go and get another job. In my time as coach at the Mariners for 5 years, then being involved with them for a year, and just the last 4 years is players now starting to struggle. That's been their job for the last 10 years, 8 years, whatever length of career they've got. And it's what do you do now? Because I always say to boys, I hate getting those dickheads in the dressing room. They're a bit arrogant, they don't want to sign the autographs. You know, they're too cool to be appreciative of the supporters. And I always say, the day you stop getting asked for your autograph, it's a very sad day. You know, because you've been used to being up there on the pedestal, and all of a sudden, you're just Joe Blow, you're just a normal person, getting a 95 job, 85, being a labourer, whatever job you're going to get. And a lot of the boys at the beginning never had any education because they were leaving school at 16, 17 to get into academies to get picked up. So we started seeing that there were an issue with players and we needed to do something a wee bit extra to start protecting these boys. When in my time at the Mariners, the first time I came across it, a couple of boys who'd been there for a lot of years, they got jobs in football through school, which was great. They were coaching the local league on the Central Coast, which is great. They were putting back in. Then you start hearing they're getting sent off. They're abusing referees. They're abusing officials. And you start going, what's going on here? And I met them one day and said, because there were two of them, two close mates. You was all right? Yeah, we're all right. Yeah, fine. Later on, we found out when he got kicked out of the house with his wife, because his wife had found the text was related to drugs. The two of them started after the game, after playing when they were back in a 95 job, coaching kids, not in the limelight, not on TV, not doing interviews. How do we deal with that? So they started taking, I think it was ice. They were on it, they were flying, it was affecting their temperament, and affecting them, and affected their lives because the wife hunted one of them. Other boy wasn't married. The boy went out, and I sat down with him and had a chat because he was like, I coached him when he was 16, and he started giving him some advice and stuff, and he eventually got back living in the garage, and he got back living in the spare room, then he got back, and everything's fine now. They've had 3 kids, and they're getting on with their life. But that was the first time I realised guys who are in that limelight and all of a sudden it's all pulled away from them, a lot of people don't get through that. At Newcastle, I spoke to our doc this morning. Our doc's a counsellor as well. We'll have between 3 and 5 boys go to him each year just for a chat, just for help, which is great to know that they're actually got the balls to go and see the doc and go and speak to somebody about it. That 3 to 5 each season, some of that will not just be them, it will be their partner who's struggling as well. And that could be struggling, bringing up a young family, they're travelling around about Australia, they're not there to help. It could be stuff like that they're going for, but they're getting up and they're going to ask for help, get some advice. And I think in the old days, if I say I'm going to go to a psychiatrist, you would never tell any of your mates that because they would think you're a weirdo and you're a soft cock. Oh, you're a soft cock, you're going to go and talk to a psychiatrist. What are you doing that for? Now, my grandkids went to a psychiatrist. I think it's because I'm the grandfather, but that's a different thing. But because they've been shouting, and maybe I'm wrong, but I told my boys, anybody bullies you, you pick up a stone or a brick and you hit them with it and then tell the teacher that I told you that. And maybe that's wrong. But when somebody was bullying them, they protected themselves, so they got sent to a psychiatrist. It wasn't cool when I got brought up to say a psychiatrist, and probably I don't think there were ever one in our area because it wasn't a posh area. Men, and in my time, a guy called Dan Stewart, who's an ex-Newcastle boy, played with the Socceroos. I played with him at Appia Leichhardt in 1988, the year after they won the league. He was an electrician in the mines, one of the toughest guys I played with, typical Novocastrian. He used to run into the goalpost when he dislocated his shoulder to whack it back in, he would play on. He had umpteen knee injuries. One of the bravest, toughest guys that I knew. He lived with me when we lived in Sydney. When I played with Newcastle Breakers, I lived with his mum and dad. Over the years, he was one of the first Aussie players to go to Malaysia. He went over there, had a great career, got into coaching, coached the Maldives national team. Yeah, not a huge country, but a national team coaching gig. Split up for his missus, quite amicable, tried to hide some money for the wife, got a new girlfriend, she stitched them up. I never realised over the years when he was there that he was coming back here for special clinic in Sydney to get treatment. He was getting shock treatment. You see that in the old movies. I never knew they still did that, but he was getting shock treatment for depression. And this is a guy, he'd be, I think, 54 now. He was somebody that young kids will look up to, how to handle yourself on a football park. Big, proud to be in Newcastle. I met him 2 years ago, just over 2 years in Singapore. I was the first time that we tried to sell the club, and we're talking to a Russian consortium. Met him in Singapore, and I met with Darren. Hadn't saw him for years, had spoke to him, but he always had an excuse not to come and see me. He always had an excuse for me not to go and see him when he was here, because I knew he was here. He came to see me, and he looked like shit. He was so skinny, he was drawn, and he started telling me a story about suffering just with depression. And when I grew up, I didn't know what depression was. I just thought it was somebody who was soft. You know, that was how we were brought up in Scotland. If there's somebody, they're just soft, don't worry about them, he's a pussy. He started telling me, and yeah, I'm here. So I came back in touch, and I tried to fly him back here, because he was struggling a bit. He'd phoned me up one day, and he went, and this is when I said, I'll fly you back. He says, I was thinking of committing suicide a couple of days ago. He said, had it planned, I was on the roof of a 11-storey building, and I was going to jump. I said, you're taking the piss out of me. He said, no. And I don't know if it was the right information I gave him, but I said, if you're going to jump, you should do it for higher up, because you might not kill yourself. And he tamed that the right way as I meant it, because I was a mate of his. So every day I would phone him, and then he was going to fly out on the Friday. He was going to be, because he was rumoured to get the Jets job when Scott Miller got the job. He was tipped to get the job. He was going to come back for a week. He was going to come to training just to get his mind off all the shit, just to get him through, take the sleeping pills so he can sleep. And he had to pull out because he had to go to the hospital. In Singapore, he got more shock treatment. He said, I'll come the week after, no problem. And what you're saying, somebody you don't hear from them, Steve, I should phone them. How many times do we go, we should contact them, see what they're doing? I spoke to him during that week. He went for his shock treatment on the Friday. A couple of days later, the family's phoned, they couldn't get hold of him. Then his ex-wife, they got the police to burst his door down, because we all thought he committed suicide, because that's the tendencies he was showing. Me as a mate, I was blaming myself, because I should have made him come here. I should have got off my arse, I should have phoned him, I should have done all that. I was feeling guilty. It was the night Northern New South Wales presentation night, was 2 nights later. And on that night as I walked in, the family phoned me from over in Singapore, and he'd actually had a heart attack. And to say I was relieved for the family, obviously this stigma about committing suicide, it was such a relief. But there were other people in that room, and Graham Jennings is the most capped Socceroo for Newcastle. I think it's 84, 85 games for Socceroos. And Graham will not mind me talking, but he's been off work as a school teacher for many years now. I think he's back part-time because of depression. And these are guys who were the top of their field at their time, and something's just not right. And Graham Jennings has went and asked for help. Darren Stewart never got there. He never told enough people, because he thought he was a man, and he didn't need. That was demeaning to him to go and ask for help for a mate like me. So what I was getting at there is that doesn't matter how big you are, doesn't matter how tough you are. Next time I go for a pee, I'm going to make sure I pee properly, not on the floor or not on the table, just in the bowl. Because like many men at night, I don't put the ensuite light on, because I don't want to waken up my wife. But she gets on to me in the morning because I dribble all over the floor and that. But I think that's just a man thing and being polite. I think we're allowed to do that. With the last bit I was saying, so at the moment, people have heard the issues we've got with a player Bernie Abini. He didn't want to stay at the club because the coaches left. That's a long story. But with the Players' Union, and the Players' Union have been very supportive of the club. And what I'm getting at here, yeah, we have to recognise mental health, that it's an illness, but when people take the piss, it's wrong because it affects so many people and so many families because it's real. So we've got a player who wants away from the club, so we've said, no, you're contracted for the season. Highest paid player. You're contracted for 1 season, play out the 7-8 months, go where you want. I'll give you that platform. You've been injured. You've been injured the last 4 or 5 years. You failed the medical in the Middle East. You can go. So then the agent has chucked in, I'm getting wound up, perfect, because I told Katie earlier. All of a sudden, I knew the phone call came from the PFA. Do you know what I'm phoning for? Yep. The boys are allowed to have 10 days off on mental stress leave with pay. After that, you can stand them down without pay. So we got the doctor certificate through. An online doctor diagnosed them with mental health stress that he couldn't train. So we said, yep, no problem. 7 days. We got the other one through from the online doctor. Then we stopped paying him because the PFA said stop paying him now. We stopped paying him. His mental health issues disappeared. He was on the freeway the next day. He was halfway up, and then we remembered we have to get him to get signed off. It's going to be hard to get signed off in an online medical doctor. So he had to turn around about, and he abused the club because he thought we were taking the piss out of him, but we were protecting himself. So all of a sudden he was healthy. He was back at training like a busted arse, you know, going through the motions. He'll probably go overseas now because he had a clause in his contract. But people who are using, the 3 players using in the league at the moment, and it's disgraceful because players are desperate to get contracts. These guys are getting a contract and then they can rip it up when they want because it's a two-way street. But there are certain agents in the world who are advising people to use that mental health thing, and I think it's disrespectful to anybody who suffers from anxiety, depression and stuff like that, because that's real. That's bullshit, what he's done. And I can't wait till he's away from this club and out of the place, because you don't want fuckers like that in Newcastle representing the club. So, thank you very much. Enjoy your lunch.